through is All Quiet on the Western Front. I've been working on this for like 2 months now, and you can see I've tabbed the heck out of it, so I'm going to share some of the parts with you that I really love. Oops. There's a lot of nature language in here, which really surprised me, but it's really, really done beautifully. So we'll start there, I guess. To me, the front is a mysterious whirlpool. Though I am in still water far away from its center, I feel the whirl of the vortex sucking me slowly, irresistibly, inescapably into itself. To no man does the earth mean so much as to the soldier. When he presses himself down upon her long and powerfully, when he buries his face and his limbs deep in her from the fear of death by shellfire, then she is his only friend, his brother, his mother. He stifles his terror and his cries in her silence and her security. She shelters him and releases him for 10 seconds to live, to run, 10 seconds of life, receives him again and often forever. The cries continued. It is not men. They could not cry so terribly. Wounded horses, says Cat. It's unendurable. It is the moaning of the world. It is the martyred creation, wild with anguish, filled with terror and groaning. And this I know, all these things that now, while we are still in the war, sink down in us like a stone, after the war shall waken again, and then shall begin the disentanglement of life and death. It is when one is alone that one begins to observe nature and to love her. All right, and then after the nature language, there's a lot of just commentary on war and its effect on the different generations who either fight it or live within it, and then what happens to them afterwards. So this is a section right at the beginning where they find out that like an entire regiment was pretty much wiped out, and so they had made food for 150 people, but now there's only about 80, and the men are all like, oh, we get double the food then. 80 men can't have what is meant for 150. And he argues, I can only issue rations for 80 men. Even though he cooked for 150, there's only 80 people available there. And Kaczynski, you haven't drawn food for 80 men. You've drawn it for the second company. Good. Let's have it then. We are the second company. And then my note here is, are soldiers numbers or people? Is a regiment a tally or a collection of individuals making up any number? And then this is, to me, this is the intent versus the execution. Okay, and then I'm dumb, but they get later and he goes, it doesn't cost you anything. Anyone would think the quartermaster's store belonged to him. And my comment is condiment packets at fast food. Because that's always the thing. You go into a fast food place and you're like, can I have more hot sauce packets or ketchup packets or whatever? And they give you like 2, like you're stealing from their personal stash that they take home to feed their kids or something. I don't know. It struck me as hilarious right off the bat. So rather than waste the highlighter, basically this entire paragraph and then the top of the next page is all highlighted for me. But he's talking about how the adults in their life have let them down, because it said, for us lads of 18, they ought to have been mediators and guides to the world of maturity, the world of work, of duty, of culture, of progress, to the future. And then he goes on, while they continued to write and talk, we saw the wounded and dying. Basically that they're taking the young men to the war, but the adults who are pushing these kids into war, talking about patriotism and honor and glory, they're the old men who stay behind and, fan the flames of nationalism. But it's the kids who get sent off to die. So the old men continue to write and talk while the young men saw the wounded and dying. While they taught that duty to one's country is the greatest thing, we already knew that death throes are stronger. But for all that, we were no mutineers, no deserters, no cowards. they were very free with all these expressions. Yeah, and the judgment that young people get when they are afraid of dying, when they are afraid of the front, when they are afraid of war, even while doing, quote unquote, their duty to serve. And these men at home just judge them and talk about how, you know, cowardly it is if they're not doing all of this with, you know, fire in their bellies about it. And then kind of along the same lines, this is like maybe 10, 20 pages later, all the older men are linked up with their previous life. Now this is talking about men in the army, generals, you know, captains, majors, people who are in their 30s and 40s who are serving. They have wives, children, occupations, and interests. They have a background which is so strong that the war cannot obliterate it. We young men of 20, however, have only our parents, and some, perhaps, a girl. That is not much, for at our age, the influence of parents is at its weakest, and girls have not yet got a hold over us. Besides this, there was little else. Some enthusiasm, a few hobbies, and our school. Beyond this, our life did not extend. And of this, nothing remains. We had as yet taken no root. The war swept us away. For the others, the older men, it is but an interruption. They are able to think beyond it. This really, really struck me because I thought, you know, what does war shape men into when they're sent to the front in their formative years, the cusp of adulthood, of discovering and choosing who they will be? The fact that it really directly says these older men, it's just an interruption to their life and they're able to think of their life when they return. But to young men, they haven't started their lives. They don't know what will come on their return, if they return. They don't have a life to return to, really, and they've been formed in their most moldable years of adulthood by this war, by this trauma. So I'm not going to go into all of them because I do think I want to do like a standalone, really in-depth review, which I don't necessarily want this to turn into. But I mean, this is on page 20. So this book comes out swinging, and I have absolutely loved it. And now it's just a matter of completing it. So. And all that David Copperfield kind of crap. Sir, don't you dare. So I keep shifting where I'm doing my filming my outside reading at because it's either too cold or too windy or whatever. So I'm in a new spot again, and I'm going to be diving in now to Catcher in the Rye, which is a Game of Tomes book for April. So I really liked this one. What really knocks me out is a book that when you're all done reading, you wish the author that wrote it was a terrific friend of yours and you could call him up on the phone whenever you felt like it. Same. Oh my gosh. Same. So his roommate is asking him a really big favor, and he says, just because they're crazy about themselves, they think you're crazy about them too, and that you're just dying to do them a favor. Like, straight up teenage narcissism. Absolutely. Zoe, what do you think about my books? What do you think about my books? So that is going to wrap up my reading vlog for today. I'm going to actually keep going on Catcher in the Rye and try to make some progress on this. I'm 4 or 5 chapters through, and I did complete All Quiet on the Western Front. I'm super happy about that, and I cannall wait to do a dedicated review of that one specifically. I don't always do dedicated reviews. This might actually be my first one now that I think about it, but I just feel like that book has so much to say, so I really want to go a little bit more in depth with it. So keep an eye out for that, and I hope you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself, taking care of each other, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.